Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Catherine Laub, author of Journey of Angelic Healing, Stories to Feed Your Soul. Catherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to share about my book and help other authors.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and get started. Question number one, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Okay, so that answer would be because I'm very spiritual and connected to my angels and spirit guides, that everybody else, when you sit down to start writing, make sure that you clear your head and say, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to write, and I'm going to ask my angels and spirit guides to make the words flow. And when you do that, you'd be amazed that, I could sit for 2 hours and write 3 chapters in a book. So that's exciting for the people that do believe in the angels.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
So it's making sure, actually, that you have the right publisher and that you have all the parts in the book that should create the entire book. And what happened with me, my publisher didn't suggest doing anything besides the table of contents. So I'm going to be re-releasing my book, and I'm going to add those missing parts, which would be a foreword, which my husband is going to write, and testimonials about my work. And I think that's a very important part to put into a book.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. I love having testimonials, especially when it comes to some of our publishing books that we have out. I mean, when you have those testimonials about yourself or about your books, it really does make a lot of difference, and it helps give you that social proof.
Right, exactly. And then I also have one other change that's going to be on my book. I have a podcast, and midpoint, it's name change. So on the back cover of my book, it's going to say The Celestial Spoon instead of Spiritual Destinations. And that is also the name of my business.
Excellent. Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Okay. So I actually work with somebody when she does book launches, and I did it last night. I sit from 7 p.m. until 2 or 3 a.m., and I look on Amazon and I track the stats. So when you see the stats and you advertise on Facebook, you're able to share out and say, look, I already hit number 1 on Amazon, and it's so exciting to share. And when you're on Facebook sharing about your book, also to do videos, because when you talk about your book and you talk about yourself, you get more interest in it. So Facebook and Twitter are definitely the ways that go about advertising and giving people information about your book.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to ask, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Oh, I love all of the Chicken Soup series. They are so inspirational. And, the authors share amazing stories, and no matter what walk of life that you are in, there's a chicken soup for the soul, for the mother, for the family, and you can identify with the stories that the people are writing, and they inspire you to go forward and say, oh, I understand that. Now I know I'm not alone. And that's also what I do with my book. I inspire people.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay. I've fallen, cried, been angry, and afraid. But even when I was hurting, I always found a way to keep going. A strong woman never gives up. And The reason for that is because I have been hospitalized 4 times for mental illness. One was a suicide attempt. This past June, I went through a lot of stress. My mother died, then my husband was diagnosed with cancer. I had a heart attack. So I spent 2 weeks in the psych ward. And I let people know that you need to get to the psych ward if you're feeling suicidal. And this quote is exactly what it says, is if you're feeling down, know that there's always an answer and that a strong woman never gives up.
Excellent. Well, Catherine, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So my website is www.catherinemlaub.com, and that's CATHERENEMLAUB.com.
Well, Catherine, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, Paul, and I look forward to having you on my podcast, too.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.